Hello and welcome to another episode of the RevRx podcast. My name is Chad Potts and I'm your host. I'm so excited today for you guys to meet my good friend, Joe Graham. Joe and I have been friends for years. He is the best salesman that I know. He won 4 straight Presidential Circle Awards with a Fortune 100 company. But what I love best about Joe is that he's a family man. He's experienced tremendous success in his personal life and in his career. But yet he still puts family first. In this episode, we're going to dig into what success really looks like. And spoiler alert, is probably a little bit different than how our society and how our culture typically defines success in our world today. We're going to talk about what it looks like to have a work-life balance and how Joe doesn't really believe in work-life balance. But you're going to want to hear what he says about that. And then we're going to talk about the role that integrity plays as we seek success and as we seek a life that we were created to live. So without further ado, I introduce to you my good friend, Mr. Joe Graham. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, my friend.
Joe is a thinker. I love the way your brain works. I love the way that you say things in a way that's easy to understand. And one of the things I've really cued on that you've been posting on a lot of your social media is this idea of, creating a life that you want to wake up to, that you're excited to wake up to. Can you walk us through a little bit about where that phrase began, how it shaped your journey, and what that means to you? Because I think so many people can resonate with that.
Sure, and it's funny. It actually happened years ago. So I grew up in the country, wrong side of the track. Family was on food stamps, didn't have the things that people would want. So I chased money. Like I literally did. I realized that now looking back, I chased money. I went to become a manager. That didn't work. I fell into sales, fell in love with it. And then I started winning awards. So to give people a background, I'm the top closer for a Fortune 100 company, second one I've been at. But the one I was at right before this, I won 4 President Circles Awards. Well, with that, you get a lot of really cool trips. So they sent us to Santa Barbara. They sent us to all these different places. And then I started making really good money. So I took my family to Disney, and I took my family to Hawaii. And I'm like, I want to help other people wake up to a life they want to live and love, because you don't have to be a millionaire to be successful or to have fun. It's not a money thing to me. It's about choice and freedom and what do you really want to do with your life. You mentioned earlier before we started talking, you're 40. I'm 47 as of Monday next week. And what I thought or run into was the fact that money doesn't give me happiness. It gives me freedom to choose what I want to do.
Yeah.
Leveling up doesn't give me happiness. It gives me freedom of choice. And I just want people to have the ability to figure out what that is for them with no rules. So I don't put rules on waking up to a life you love. I say it this way. I know people that make 60, 70,000 a year, and they are having the best time of their life being their son's baseball coach, going and doing the different things that they want to do. And I know millionaires that are completely miserable. But in reverse order, I know people making 60 to 70 that are miserable millionaires that are the most giving, loving people out there.
Sure.
It's all perception.
Yeah.
I guess I would have to say this. You have to ask yourself, when you wake up in the morning, what type of life do you want to live? And if you're not there yet, start putting it in motion. I'm not at end game, but I am grateful for the moments that I'm in right now. I'm thankful for the opportunities that are being provided to me, the relationships and networks and all. And each day I just try to get a little bit better by improving spirit, soul, body, all of it.
I love it. And it's about embracing the process, isn't it? I really like what you said about it's not end game. Because there are goals out there that we want to achieve. There are things we want to do. But if we make it all about that, we kind of lose the process. We make it all focused on down the road, and we a lot of times lose the perspective of the moment, don't we?
Yeah, well, I think what happens is that we get these big goals and we hit them, and then we go, oh, and I need to do the next big goals, and we're not grateful for it. So, if I look back at 20 to 25-year-old Joe, where I'm at now, he would be blown away. Totally, he's made it, he's done it, it's amazing. So I'm grateful that I've gotten to this point.
Sure.
But now that I've leveled up, learned, connected with more people, understand what I really like and who I want to impact and bring value to, now my goals and stuff have grown. I think it's, like you said, that process. I'm grateful that I've gotten to what I had set out to do, but I know there's so much more I can do now because I've actually achieved it. But and I've talked about this a lot of times. If you watch my live, success is boring. I made that joke.
Yeah.
It's doing the right processes over and over again with a known result. The reason most people aren't successful is really simple. They don't work out consistently. They don't do their calls or follow up consistently. They don't invest in the relationships consistently. They think there's some magic pill, some secret, some great game that they can, if they do this one thing, it's going to work. No, it's time over tension.
Yep.
It's love and connection. And it's doing the things and keeping the commitments to yourself each and every day that gets you to wake up to that life that you want.
Sure. And we live in a culture that in a society that very much values convenience. There's always seemingly, a search for this easy button, the shortcut. We live in a place where we receive things almost instantaneously. And so we want results instantaneously. But success doesn't work that way, does it? And you can apply that to any part of your life. Whatever your goal is, consistency is the name of the game. And I love, success is boring. It can be boring because it's a daily, continuous routine, but that's how you get results. It's doing the right things consistently. So absolutely resonate with that 100%. So while we're talking about success, now I'd like to ask a lot of my guests this question because it can take on so many different views and different perspectives. So when you think about success, what does it look like to be successful in the eyes of Joe Graham? What do you value and what does that look like for you?
First and foremost, I'm a father and a husband. So my world is first set on my family. How do I support them? How do I interact with them? Are they happy and content? Am I supporting them in their dreams? And then my world goes out from there. Am I perfect at it? No. But for me, first and foremost, I want my family to be healthy, happy, and whole. Yeah. Secondly, I want to meet crazy cool people and do epic things. That's what I love to do. Like, you'll never see me be excited really about a car. Like, people will joke about, oh, I want a Lamborghini, I want a Bugatti. Don't care. Like, my dream car, here comes Country Boy again, is like a Ford F-150 or maybe a Toyota Tundra, because I don't care about that. But it's finding what is it that makes you happy. I found some of my most super exciting, successful things were being happy with who I am and content in the moment, no matter what the outside circumstances are. And I think so many times you mentioned we're in a world of convenience. We're in a world where we say, well, success means you have to have this, you have to do that, whatever. And I think success is 23 years of marriage that I've had with my wife that I'm in youth group. I know success is having a relationship with all of my kids, 21, 19, and 9. Yeah. Success is being able to wake up and know that when I've helped a client or done something with them, I gave my best. Now, was I perfect? No, we're not perfect. We're human. We're going to mess up. Yeah. But if I'm giving my best and helping as many people as possible, Ziegler said it, if you help as many people as possible, you'll never lack because you can have money, time, and all that. So for me, I know that's a kind of a really broad range, but I focus first on my family and then go out from there. And then the other thing is I'm going to say this and people might not like it, but it's true. If you choose to run your own business, if you choose to do an adventure, if you choose to do whatever, and you're not taking care of your family and you're ignoring them, but you're saying you're doing it for your family, you're lying to yourself. Say that you're doing it for yourself because your heart is where your actions are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm very much a family first guy too. And so that, I can see that in you. I can see that just in the conversations that we have together. And I think, I'm convinced that that's the way it needs to be. That's the way it has to be. If we're going to live a meaningful life, if we're going to live into our purpose that we were put here on this earth and created for, a large part of that is, it starts at home. So it's difficult to really step into this successful mindset without having success first in your home. Your wife, your kids. If they're not happy, nobody's happy, right? And you can have all the success in the world, but if that's falling apart, then you're not going to be fulfilled.
What are you doing it for at that point? If you say you're going to do it, but you're always gone and you're never engaged.
Yep, exactly. So thinking about family, and this is something that I really, I think a lot of people struggle with. You're a family first guy, but you're also extremely successful in your career. You've constantly been winning the President's Awards and winning trips and you're top notch. You've constantly been on the top of your profession. And I think a lot of people think that in order to do that, they have to sacrifice family. They have to sacrifice that time with them. And, that you're a living example of what it looks like to really be able to find that work-life balance. Can you tell us a little bit, and can maybe you perhaps give some advice to some of our listeners that may be struggling with that as to how you found that and what that looks like in your life?
Yeah. I don't believe in work-life balance.
Okay.
I believe in intentionality,
Okay,
meaning
good. Yeah.
that I'm 100% intentional with what I'm doing at that time. A lot of times people get distracted and they say they're doing work, but they're just doing busy work. They're not being intentional with their time.
Okay.
So I'll give you, this is a good example. I'm going to do a half marathon this September with my wife. Well, she's not doing this time. I'm going to run it this time in Hawaii. So I joined a kickboxing gym. So I'm going to be getting up. Well, I don't do the kickboxing during the day, taking time away from them. I got up at 5:30 today to be there at 6:15. I'm not taking time for when I'm doing stuff with them. I have set times that I do work, but when work's done, I'm done. I'm 100% present when I'm there. I time block a lot, meaning that when I'm saying I'm making calls, my manager knows not to call me. My team knows not to call me. I'm engaged in 100% focus on what I'm doing. The problem is that we get caught up in the idea of working or thinking we're working or doing this or doing that, and we're not being as intentional as we can be. So
Yeah.
even though I have ADHD and I don't like to be constricted to a calendar, the calendar has helped me so much because I've been able to schedule this podcast with you, make calls this morning, do a workout. Last night, my wife and I went on a date night to a new restaurant because we just moved here, so trying different stuff, and we had just quality time because it had been a little bit. And so I do want to touch the work-life balance thing, though. There are going to be times when you're going to have to grind it out. There's going to be times when you're going to have to build your business and do your things. Be honest with your family. Tell them what's going on. Let them know this next 2 weeks, because I have this project or whatever, I'm super busy. But I'm scheduling a night to go out with my daughter here. I'm going to schedule this activity with my son here. I'm going to take my wife here, knowing that I'm not neglecting you. This is just a time, but it's a short time. If you're always just grinding, first, you're not going to be successful. Second, you're going to be tired as heck. And third, you're going to not be happy. And then the last thing that I have to say, because I think so many times people think with this grind culture, you have to do this. You need self-care. You need some way to refresh yourself. You see me doing my walks. A lot of times that's refreshing to me. Sometimes I talk to you guys. Sometimes I don't. It can be whatever that looks like for you. I'm not going to put like parameters on it, but you got to find a way to fill your cup as well. So I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in intentionality.
Yeah, I love that answer. I wasn't sure where you were going to start with, but I love the intentionality. I think that's kind of been a key word for me lately. It's about being intentional in the right things. And so it doesn't look like necessarily that your work never spills out over into family time. Give yourself some grace there if that is happening occasionally, but realize it shouldn't always do that. And then if it's going to communicate, communication, I think, is essential in a relationship, period, much less in a family relationship. And so being able to communicate that, like what you said, hey guys, going to be busy for the next couple of weeks, but hey, we have something to look forward to. We're going to go do this together. There's something that on the other side of this that is going to show my priority, which is you. And so what a meaningful way to really think about, okay, working to the best of your ability, but then also taking care of the relationships that matter the most.
I just thought about this because when my son was younger, he's 18 now. He was in baseball. I never played baseball. I was horrible at it, but it was something that we could do together. So I slowed down my sales stuff that I was doing, the hours I was working, so I could be the assistant baseball coach. Because I definitely shouldn't be the major one because I don't know baseball. I just like watching baseball. But like in those 2 years that we did it for those little seasons was probably one of the most fun, impactful things that I remember. I'm assuming he'll remember. But at least for me as a dad, just getting to be in there and in the dugout or on first base, just trying and seeing these kids do stuff. And to me, that was a success because his eyes lit up. He got to connect with me, and that was a cool thing. So I again, that's why I'm always like, there's times when you're super invested in your family. There's times when you're super invested in your work. You just have to make sure you understand what season you're in. And since you're married to your wife, you need to get her commitment on it. And with the kids, you are invested. You can't just tell them what you're going to do for the most part. I mean, there's sometimes you have to lead and say, "Hey, I have to do this," but it should be an exception, not the norm.
I really like what you said too about this concept of kind of being in intentional within the calendar. I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this specific work related task. But then, there's so many distractions. We'll get a phone call and it could even be something that, that's important, but it's not something that has to be done. It's not urgent, and so there are so many different things that take us away from being intentional within those time blocks. But really, when you say you're going to do this, set those expectations with other people to where you're minimizing those distractions. Put your phone on silent or whatever you need to do just during that time block to where you can get the most work done. I feel best at the end of my day if I have done the work that I set out to do. And there's really no worse feeling for me at the end of the day than, man, I wasted time. And it can be on a weekend with my kids. It doesn't have to be within the context of work, but being in the moment, present during the times when you set aside for that, I think is, the key. So when we think about success, a lot of times we think about success as linear. So you set off for a goal, and then you're reaching your goals, and then you set another goal, and you reach another goal, and hey man, it's just a straight line into the sky. I'm shooting off. I'm flying. Everything's great. However, the reality of success is that it's not usually that way. There are challenges, there are roadblocks, there are different things along our path that cause hiccups, if not totally derail us at times. Can you think of a time or two that you've experienced something like that? Just, maybe the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome in your journey? Because I do see you as a very successful human being. You've been at the top of your game career-wise. You're also top of your game family-wise. And I really admire that about you. But I have enough context to know that it hasn't always just been super easy for you. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those challenges and what you've done to overcome those?
So I've been in sales 20 years. So we'll start with the sales one because that one's the easiest to remember.
Sure.
And I went through different types of sales, and I was selling oil and gas investments, and I was doing really great at it. And I found out that the wells weren't producing. So if I don't believe in what I'm selling, I can't do it. So I took a job with another company, and it was selling third party for cell phones, and they weren't ethical. They were stealing from me. And I went from making really good money to like $48,000 with a family of 5. I was driving Uber, and I was on food stamps. And this was 9-10 years ago. Because everyone sees the end game and they think, oh, this is great. Now, remember, I was in sales for 20 years. So I started out doing roofing, windows, and siding. I've had the ups and downs, the good, the bad, and indifference. And about 9-10 years ago, I almost had a nervous breakdown, like literally because the money was gone. I'm working 2 jobs. We have a little one. I have a 9-year-old. So like she was born right around that time. So like that whole gambit. And I was like wondering, what the heck am I doing? What's going to happen? And I humbled myself, and I went in. The company I worked for at the time was called Spectrum. I went and started knocking on doors, and I started slinging cable. After having a successful career, I went from selling heavy equipment and selling oil and gas, talking to multimillionaires, to knocking on grandma's door to say, hey, do you want the Country Boy channel or whatever? I don't remember what the channel was, but there was like a Western channel. That was the one back in the day, because I always would do the older neighborhoods. But it got me back into that grid of, no, this is just about connection, solving problems, which then opened the door to Spectrum Enterprise, where I started doing the B2B aspect of it, to where now I work for T-Mobile as a major account executive, working with companies 300 to 1,000 people or employees. And then during that progression, I learned that life and success is what you choose it to be each and every day. So success some days is me just getting up and making the phone calls, or me just getting up and knocking on the doors, or me just getting up and going for a walk and spending time with my families, because all I can control is my inputs. I can't control how they're going to respond, but I can control how I respond to them and how much I reach out. So I started leveling up. I started listening to more podcasts, reading books, looking at YouTube videos, trying and failing forward to the point where then, like you mentioned, I won 4 President Circle awards in a row for a Fortune 100 company. Anyone who's super successful has had a lot of crap that they've gone through and stuff that they've dealt with that you just don't see it because most of them won't put it in their highlight reel.
That's right.
Me, if you follow my page, if you follow my stuff a lot of times, I tell you the ups, the downs, the goods, the bad, because I want you to see the path. I'm not so ego driven that I'm like, oh, I was just the best for 20. No, I've ups, downs, worries, faith. And then the other thing with that I want to mention is having the right people in your corner. So first and foremost, my wife was supporting me along the way, like super risk. I was doing like 100% commission type of things. That's a little scary for a family of 5.
Sure.
And then just getting the right people in your network. Like when I met you 8, 9 years ago, I was just coming out of that.
Yeah.
I was literally, I think I just maybe won my first President's Circle for Spectrum. Barely had and it was like barely made it in the door. I wasn't killing it yet. And then it progressed to, I think, 162% the plan, 172% the plan before I left. So it was just one of those, you can get better. Just don't overestimate what you can do in 1 year. And don't underestimate how your life can change in 10.
Don't underestimate what you can do in 10. Don't overestimate what you could do in 1. It's about the long game, isn't it?
Always.
Yeah. Such a profound statement. I love that. And so one of the things you mentioned, I just want to hit on this really quickly. You mentioned if you don't believe in something, you won't sell it. You can't sell it.
No.
And that's one of the reasons I've always been drawn to you, Joe, is because you're a man of integrity. You're a man of authenticity. What role does integrity play in our pursuit of success? Because I think a lot of times there's temptations to take shortcuts that oftentimes involve a lack of integrity. What's been your experience with that? And, why is that something that's a non-negotiable for you?
I think it's my upbringing, my background. Like I grew up, my parents raised me in church. I've always been, if you give a handshake to someone, that's your agreement. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I might not be perfect at it, but you're going to know that, Chad, I put every amount of effort I could into it.
Yeah.
And so when it came to selling, I look at selling as problem solving. I'm helping you solve a problem. I don't look at selling as me taking from you. I look at selling as me partnering with you. So if I'm partnering with you and helping you and my business is helping your business, I'm not going to do anything unethical because that does not make sense. I wouldn't want you to do that to me. So how I want to be treated, I treat other people. Well, there's this good book called The Go-Giver. If you want to check it out, I think it's by Bob Burke. Phenomenal book, but it has that same type of concept. You are who your word. Like I'm old school. Like you'll see me post stuff even from Peaky Blinders or stuff, that old school generation where they're like flat out, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I just think that men need to live that way.
And, we're only as good as our word. And, I think that integrity is of utmost importance because who you are and who you're becoming is much greater than what you do. And, the person that you become, the man that you become, through the proper channels, through not taking the shortcuts, through taking the honest and the hardworking way, that pays off. That pays off. So, well, Joe, man, what a wonderful conversation. And we're just kind of hitting the tip of the iceberg here. But, hey, where can people find you? How can they get into your world? Tell them a little bit about, I know you're on social media. You've got a tremendous podcast. Can you tell them about that and where to find you? And I'm also going to put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Chad. Yeah, on social media, most of them, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube is Joe Graham Real because someone had Joe Graham before, so I couldn't do that. On Facebook, I have the 150K podcast group. That's easier because there's a ton of Joe Grahams on there, so it might be hard to find me. LinkedIn, same thing. It's just Joe Graham Real. And it's me. I don't have an admin that does it, so if you ask me a question, let me know. I do sales coaching. I'm very selective. If you need help with business, B2B, personally, or you're a business that needs to scale your business, I can help you with it. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And I just like seeing people wake up and be happy.
Yeah. It's a desire of mine too. I think we're very much aligned on that. And Joe, you're the real deal. I appreciate you being you. I appreciate you being great, and just all the help that you're able to add to this world. You're truly one of a kind, and I appreciate you and appreciate you being here with us today on this podcast.
Thank you, Chad, and I appreciate you being in my life. And you are one of the most consistent guys I see as well. So back at you, my friend.
Thank you for listening to the RevRx podcast. We hope you enjoyed what you heard today, and if so, we'd love it if you would hit that subscribe button so that you'll never miss a new episode from us. Also, feel free to leave us reviews and comments, as we'd love to hear from you. Be blessed and be the very best you.